Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Cheltenham Roar, the show brought to you by Priced Up Bet and oddschecker as we look ahead to the Cheltenham Festival, but in particular the racing this weekend. I'm your host as ever, George Ellick, delighted to be joined by Andy Holding and Ginger Joe as we look ahead to some racing kind of across the UK. We're going to start in Kempton, we're going to have a little look elsewhere as well. Actually, we're going to start at Southwell, which isn't a normal thing we see on the Cheltenham Roar, but we'll get onto that in a second. Joe, how are you getting on?
Yeah, I'm really good, George. We're well, every week now we're getting a bit closer, aren't we? So just getting the final touches to some small anti-post bets and trying to get the squads narrowed down, I suppose, for the big week. But really good, and delighted to look ahead to this weekend as well.
Glad to hear it, Andy. How are you?
Not bad. Yeah, still suffering on the tipping front. Got to be honest. Yeah, it's been February was okay, and then it started to go downhill a bit. I managed to get one on beat yesterday at 50 to 1 on a Ludlow, one of Nicky Henderson's, back from 11 to 4 to 6 to 4, and went 2 lengths clear and still got caught on the running after a bad mistake at the last. So it's just been really difficult. It's just a trying time at the moment. It's certainly building character, let's say.
It's always darkest before the dawn. Form is temporary, class is permanent.
Cheltenham's around the corner. That's my sort of. That's the thing that's hanging. Festival. Yeah, hanging as a like a Belisha beacon in the distance. It's Cheltenham's looming, so hopefully I've got all my bad luck behind me before Cheltenham.
And there are a lot of people who've been following your tips for a long time, Andy, who will know that it will turn. Let's get into the action. If you haven't got a Priced Up account already, make sure you sign up for one. There'll be a link in the show description. Click on that. You can find plenty of price boosts across different sports every single day. And hopefully the guys will have a look at this and boost some of the selections from Andy and Joe as we look ahead to the weekend. But we're recording this on Thursday evening. And we're going to start this show, unsurprisingly, with the 7:30 at Southwell. The Road to Cheltenham Novice Stakes over 1.5 miles. Why are we doing that? Well, anyone who's watching this will know why. Because Constitution Hill is having seemingly a prep run for the Champion Hurdle on the all-weather on the flat. Current prices are as such. Square Necker is the 7-4 favourite ahead of Constitution Hill at 2 to 1. That 2 to 1 with Priced Up is standout best on the oddschecker grids. No one even 15 to 8, in fact. Two firms, 2 to 1, and Priced Up are one of those. Daddy Longlegs for Willie Mullins and Ryan Moore is 7 to 2. Gambino 15 to 2, just ahead of Tripoli Flyer at 13 to 2, and 40 to 1 bar those. It's a interesting market, this. Before we will talk about the Champion Hurdle afterwards and what this could mean, or if there's anything we can learn from this from Constitution Hill. But firstly, let's look at it as a race on its own merit. Andy, can you find any value?
Well, I think 1 or 2 punters have already found some value in Square Necker. I won't name names, but a few firms have gone double figures about this thing. First off the bat, and I think they've dropped a bit of a clanger there. First run for not new connections, but new trainer, having left Robson Dagua over in Ireland. Won at Dundalk on its last start, was quite impressive. Hard to tell what he actually achieved in merits up against several high quality jump horses like Constitution Hill, Daddy Longlegs and Gambino. First run for Dan Skelton and Tripoli Flyer. It's almost like a jumper's bumper, this, the greatest respect to a few of these. So he's the one with a flat inverted commas form, and he's had a relatively recent run. So I suppose that's one of the reasons why punters were putting 2-2 together and maybe coming up with 3 here. It's just a very difficult betting race. We know that Constitution Hill is a phenomenally good and talented horse, but will he be fully effective first time out over a mile and a half round Southwell on the all-weather? It's a fascinating affair. I personally won't be betting on it myself. What it'll tell us long-term or even in the short term, your guess is as good as mine. What Connection's thinking? There's 2 ways of looking at this, George. Will they think, okay, let's say he wins by a couple of lengths comfortably, will that give them the confidence or enough belief that their horse can go to Cheltenham off the back of a confidence-boosting run where he's gone to the races and he hasn't had a bad experience? Do they think, okay, that's enough with his homework over hurdles to go to Cheltenham and have a crack at the champion? Or do they think, easing down, does that then give us enough ammunition to go on the flat to say, okay, let's forget the jumps. Let's see what he can do on the flat. But as he's just won and beaten some good horses on the flat. So yes, the optics will tell us what connections might want to go, what route they might want to go down. But ultimately, I don't think it'll tell us any more than we know about his champion hurdle claims, because he hasn't jumped any hurdles.
Okay. Yeah, for a horse that can't stop falling, I guess one way to improve the form line is certainly to take the hurdles away. But joke, I mean, again, we'll talk about Cheltenham in a second. Can you find any value here, or should we move on to that chat?
No, I don't really know what to make of the whole scenario with it, really, George. I don't know. Like Andy said, what are we trying to figure out here? What are we going to learn? I personally can't see him winning over 1 mile 4 as well. I just don't know if it's actually going to suit him, and we don't even know if he's going to come out of the stalls in one piece just yet. So it wouldn't be anything. It doesn't necessarily look like a fact-finding mission. What I would say as well is, if this was his preparation for a champion hurdle and it was over hurdles, I mean, it's coming quite close to the big day now. You probably wouldn't want to run him. I just don't know whether it's the right thing to do. I just can't make light of the whole scenario, really. Like I said, we're not going to find anything out with regards to his credentials at the Cheltenham Festival. My viewing may vary to the majority, and I think they already know whether they will or won't run. But as a jumps horse, my opinion would be just to get on with it, have a go. He is a jumps horse. I know he's fouled 3 of his last 4 times, but I wouldn't worry about that too much. Obviously, there is the potential that he could do himself some damage, which we obviously wouldn't want. But I don't think shying away from the race and going to run on the flat is going to help us learn anything whatsoever. Look, I'm going to tune in and watch the race, but I don't know what I'm going to be expecting to learn from this either way, George, to be honest. Win, lose or draw.
So let's talk about the champion hurdle in some detail then. Priced up are not non-run, no bet. Important to say that, but that does mean that if you are confident that a horse is going to be going for the race, you can obviously siphon some value compared to those that are shorter on the grids, who are NRNB. The New Lion is the 5-2 favourite of Brighter Days Ahead, who is 11-4. Constitution Hill is 4-1, third favourite. Lossy Mouth is 6-1. Last year's winner, Golden Ace, 13-2. Triumph winner Poneros is 16-1, 20-1 about Alexei, who won last weekend, and then 25-1 bar those. Now, sometimes in these anti-post markets, you get kind of false prices where a horse is a certain price, and you look on the exchange and there are no offers. But like right now, Constitution Hill is a genuine third favourite. There is money queuing up at various prices, 6.8, 7, 7.2 to back Constitution Hill. So this is a genuine third favourite price. I mean, Andy, can you make any case for backing a horse who, of course, on his day would wipe the floor with these, you would think, but, it hasn't looked the same horse in the last 4 starts for various reasons?
Yeah, I mean, even the sort of evidence of what we've seen in recent times, I don't think, wiping the floor is anywhere near on the agenda. He was disappointed when he stayed on his feet at Punchestown, wasn't he? So he's just a very, very difficult one for me to be backing. Even if he wins at Southern, they decide to roll the dice, he still wouldn't be for me. Because like I say, I think I've made this comparison scenario before. It's just like taking penalties in the training ground, and nothing prepares you for, walking to the penalty spot with 60,000 people there, and you've got to put the winner away to win the World Cup. It's just there's nothing's incomparable. So it's a tricky one as well, because like Constitution Hill doesn't run, and potentially Lossy Mouth doesn't run, then all of a sudden you're looking at Bright Days Ahead and the New Lion and thinking, well, they could be value at their current prices. And it brings the thievery each way options into focus, like your Golden Aces, who won the race last year and has done nothing wrong this season. He's liable to run a race, as she often does at Cheltenham. And then you're looking at some outsiders like Alexei, who's won the Great Wood at the track and was good the other day at Wincanton, and it becomes more than a dangerous floater. So I think it's one of them racings until you've got all the evidence, until they're there lining up on the day. We haven't got to have a bet at the moment. I think you're only going to lose half a point here, there, and everywhere with your Bright Days Ahead and New Line scenarios. And you might as well just wait till the day, wait for the conditions.
Joe, how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, the champion hurdle picture is obviously quite cloudy regardless, but I suppose the way to look at the non-runner no bet angle is ask yourself the question, would you back the horse at the current price if they line up on the day? As simple as that, because otherwise there's no point you taking the chance for starters. So if Constitution Hill rocks up on the day and he's 7-2 non-runner no bet currently, and you back him on the day, then maybe you want to take your chance, but he certainly wouldn't be one for me. I think I've mentioned previously, I don't really like going into races backing horses where you feel like you're on the back foot from the get-go, and I think that might be the case with with Constitution Hill, potentially Brighter Days Ahead too. So all roads to me are starting to point to the New Lion. I know there's a few holes you can pick in his form here and there, but he does have speed. He's still using that speed to overcome some poor positions in some races. And at this moment in time, the fact that he's so solid, he stays on his feet for the most part, he's a good traveller, strong finish. There's not a lot not to like about the New Lion, especially when there's so many holes in the opposition. It probably wouldn't be good enough in a standard sort of champion hurdle, but the picture as it is, he looks like the solid option at the moment. And I wouldn't really want to be looking to, elsewhere really at this point in time, George. Golden Ace is going to be there and run her race, but I do just think the New Lion's a little bit better than her, and I think he'll have his way with her at Cheltenham too, especially with that hill.
Really interesting. Yeah, I'll be fascinated to see, regardless of what happens on Friday night on the flat, what price Constitution Hill goes off if he does line up on Tuesday.
We never know.
Feasibly could go off favourite, feasibly could go off a double figure price.
We never normally ask you, George, but obviously you like a punt and you know the form, and you're like the outsider looking in. We're looking at it from form analysis and tipping. We've got to put selections up. With you can just sit on the fence and listen to what we got to say, listen to what a lot of other people have got to say, and put it all together, put all the strands together. Like what you've heard on the street, what your gut feeling is, like of picking up the all the scraps. What would you do now? What's your kind of thinking about playing in the champion hurdle?
I certainly wouldn't be back in Constitution Hill, despite someone who was lucky enough to be on at a big price for the Supreme. So it's a horse that I adore and would love to see go and put it right. I'm kind of amazed if you look at his SPs, his last 4 runs are 2 on even money, 8-13 and 6-4 in high quality races. That's obviously the quality that he has. And my hunch is that if he does line up and he does go, he's going to go off a fair bit shorter than the 7-2, which again I find crazy. But I would agree with Joe in terms of having been there last year. I couldn't, despite what we've seen since, I couldn't back Brighter Days Ahead with anyone's money. And Golden Ace is probably the one where if the race is going to cut up, you can be pretty confident that she's going to run her race and get an each way squeak, but it's not a huge price. So, yeah, probably the New Lion or Golden Ace for me. But a no bet right now, I would say. But fascinated to see what happens on Friday night and fascinated to see what happens going forward with Constitution Hill, and I would love it. And I'll be very sad that I'm not going to be there on Tuesday, because I would love it if we see him put it all together and return to former glories. And Nicky's done it before, hasn't he? So do not rule it out. Right, let's head over to Saturday. We're going to quickly go through the Kempton card. Because it's the 19th of February, and because we're 19 days away from day one at the Cheltenham Festival, a lot of these races don't have that many pointers when it comes to what's going to happen at the festival. To a lot of horses now being put away, but there are a few. This is one where we may not see many of these turn up. If we do, in the handicaps, but Hold the Serve is the 11-4 favourite of the opener at Kempton on Saturday. The handicap hurdle over 2 mile 5 furlongs. Fasol is 9-2. Royal Infantry 5-1. Grenadier Jed is 6-1. 6-1 favourite and Fortune. 15-2. What's Up With You? 9-1 bar those. Joe, any fancies here?
Yeah, this is a tough race to work out, George. Partly for the reason that you said, you don't know who's here trying, who's here ready to go. But the first few in the market don't interest me too much. I think Olive Nichols has been superb on Fazol this year, but a marker 1-2-3, he's probably going to have to run to about 1-2-8 to win this. I'm not totally sure if his ceiling is any bigger than that. Then I had a look at Grenadier Jed. He's got some awesome form, and what's likeable about him is that he's a real improver. He's going forward. His marker 118 probably underestimates his true ability. There is just a bit of a niggle, though, that all of his good form has come left-handed. His 2 runs right-handed have been really poor. And since January 2025, so last year, they've decided to stay away from the right-handed tracks and keep him left-handed. But he'd have an ideal profile for this sort of race. He's quick, because you can find some horses over this sort of 2.5 mile trip that are better maybe going up to 3 miles. But you can also find the 2.5 milers that are quick enough for 2 miles as well. I think Grenadier Jed is probably one of the speedier types. So Kempton should be to his liking. It's just that right-handed nature of the track that seems to be a big concern for a horse that's so progressive everywhere else. So the one I'm going to come down on here, George, is actually going to be Favour and Fortune for Alan King in the late Trevor Hemmings colours. This is a horse that's clearly got a fair amount of ability. He comes into this race off top weight of a mark of 142 after a 323-day break. That last effort at Aintree was his first attempt up to 2.5 miles, and he seemed to relish it. Like I said, he was only beaten by Wellington Arch and Copec Demine. He was given a weight to those two rivals, and he ran really, really nicely there. I don't know if that has always been the plan with this horse, because like I say, he's been campaigned over 2 miles for the majority. Now, there is the question mark whether that Aintree race will actually be his target again in sort of, 6 weeks' time, and that might be the case. But the fact they're dropping him in grade here to run off top weight, that's usually a sign to me that they're ready to go first time out. It doesn't necessarily look like it's a race they're going to use to sort of preserve his handicap mark as such. If they hold him up as well, I think he's going to have a massive chance because he's got a bit of stamina, I think probably more than what we've seen so far. And considering there's a few horses in this race that don't look ideally suited to Kempton to my eye, I think he's going to have an each-way chance regardless of this being his target or not. Whether it is that Aintree race, I still can't see him being too far away off this sort of mark. He's probably the class angle in the race. Should enjoy the track as well. And at 8-1, I'll take him as a tentative each-way selection here, George.
Lovely stuff. Andy, how do you see it?
Yeah, I quite like the one that Joe mentioned straight away there, Grenadier Jed. I like the way he's going. He comes out of a very strongly run race at Chepstow the other day. I put up Castleford in my column, and Castleford was sort of hanging on for dear life all the way down the straight, and he finally wilted in the end. The front two pulled well clear. He ended up getting into a battle with west of the bridge? The Skeleton also, who rolled back the years at the Ropol age of 12, carrying 12 stone. But he was really tenacious in victory, the winner. And to be fair, the Grenadier Jed didn't shoot the issue. I'll go to task a little bit with about his form going right-handed. He's run Taunton twice and he's won twice around there. So flat right-handed tracks, maybe not necessarily that much of a negative. If the ground was soft, I think he'd be a big player. Good to soft, it dried out, not so much. But at this very moment in time, good to soft in places. Right, the price for him's reasonable enough, and I like that run last time out, and he's going the right way. So Grenadier Jed will do for me.
Grenadier Jed and Favour and Fortune, the selections for the guys in the opener. Then we've got a really interesting renewal of the Adonis, where Precious Man is the 4-5 favourite ahead of One Horse Town at 5-2. Fantasy World pitches up again here, having really bombed out at what looked a moderate race at Musselburgh, sent off 3 on favourite on debut and finished 4th. Nicky Henderson said that Nico de Boinville's told him to ignore that run. And if you ignore that run, then this price might look quite interesting for a horse that was shorter than this for the Triumph a week ago. Falls of Akan is 16-1, as is La Luna Artiste, and Allure is 25-1. Joe, we spoke about Fantasy World when you were on the show a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, not particularly impressive. You haven't taken a huge leap of faith, and I guess by your words of not wanting to be on the back foot before you start, yes. I guess he isn't one that comes into your equation here. Yeah,
that's exactly the case again there, George. I'd love to see him run a better race. And I think the fact that they're turning him out quick enough suggests they didn't find any issues at home. They're obviously happy enough with him to roll the dice again. Like I mentioned, they're buying a lot of horses out of sort of High Chaparral dams, the same as Firewarning and Altior. And it may sound good, but obviously it doesn't always ring positive when they get to the course. And so far it hasn't with this fella. Now, although he's a really nice, likeable horse, and he was given a mark of 103 on the flat potentially, he hasn't necessarily backed up that performance. He actually won at Ascot, beating Nightwalker off a mark of 89 and was then given the ride. So we haven't actually seen him back up that performance yet, so potentially there is a question mark in the form. It has to be between the front two here, George. Obviously there's a £5 swing between them. Precious Man is a little bit awkward himself though again, so I'm not sure if I'd want to roll the dice at 4-5, George, to be honest with you. One Horse Town's probably going to get a little bit closer to him than I think the swing and the weights will suggest, just because they're both a little bit more experienced since. Like I said, with a few quirks around Precious Man, I wouldn't want to be backing him at 4-5 anyway. Not necessarily saying that I'd back One Horse Town either. Probably a race to watch for me.
A race to watch for Joe. Andy?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind sort of 4 to 5, 10 to 11 about Precious Man. I think he's a really nice horse. I got a big word for him first time out off the Skeltons at Cheltenham, and he ran nicely. It was just the ground that did him. He probably travelled a bit too strongly. They gave him way too much to do. It was a race that 1 horse down, nicked off the front. Good ride by his pilot, and he's been a real money spinner for the connections. I've got nothing bad to say about the second favourite here from Harry Durham's yard, but I came away from that Cheltenham race thinking if they met again, Precious Man would turn the form around. This flat track will really suit him. It did last time out when he came here to Kempton. He was given a patient riding behind the front runners and just pounced. He's got a really good turn of foot. The drier the ground, the better. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. He'll turn around the form, and he's not going to go to the Triumph, but this is a good bit of placing from the Skeltons. A nice 45 grand in the old Skyrocket.
So that saves me asking you if the 25 to 1 about the Triumph is worth taking.
Not
going
to. They'll run the other one, Monsieur Conti.
Yeah, Maestro Conti.
Maestro Conti.
Yes, indeed. Okay, on to the third race on the card, the Pendle Novice Chase over 2.5 miles, where Jax Jr. is the 4 to 6 favourite ahead of Go West at 11 to 4. Jasmine Bliss is 6 to 1, and Old Cowboy 14 to 1. Another trappy affair, another odds-on favourite. Are you keen on this one too, Andy?
Yeah, no, I don't think this is trappy at all. Again, George, to be honest, I think this is fairly straightforward.
Ooh,
famous last words, but I think a nice little double here, short price double. Precious Man 4 to 5, 8 to 11, Jax Jr. Really like this horse. Have done all season long. I liked him last year when he won the Sydney Banks. He beat that nice horse of Henderson's. He finished second to the Henderson's horse, Caliphate and Vol. No questions asked, was in that race as well. Really strong form as a hurdler. It's always going to be a chaser. He got beat by Steel Ally early on in the season, but there was no disgrace in that, as we've seen what Steel Ally's done subsequently. Not Steel Ally, the other nice horse of Di Walters is. You'd probably be able to find the form out. Was it your Toxida?
Lump Sum.
That's the one, Lump Sum, yeah. Getting me Lump Sum and me Lump Sums and me Steel Allies mixed up. But then he lowered the colours of Jericho de Repene around here, jumped brilliant that day. He had a little bit of a wind up after a break, after he slightly underperformed the time before, but he was good at stand down over what I thought was going to be an adequate trip. But he's back up to his optimum here around a track that he's gone well before. He's a solid jumper. He's uncomplicated. I think he's a good horse. I think he's better than these. So, yep, fairly straightforward selection. Jax Jr.
Great stuff. A lovely quick fire odds on
No
double
messing,
there.
no messing around.
Precious Man into Jax Jr. in the 145 and the 245 at Kempton. On then to the Dovecote Novice Hurdle over 2 miles, where double measure again for the Skelton team is the 7 to 2 favourite ahead of Club de Rev at 4 to 1. Joe, did I forget to ask you about your thoughts there? I did.
Yeah, poor old Joe, he's
what are
hanging
your
on there.
thoughts
Thinking about
on the
me.
225.
I know.
This was his nap.
Yeah, but look, it's very straightforward. Like Andy said, I'm perhaps not as brave to do the double this weekend, but Jax Jr. this should be a shoo-in for him. Even on ratings is 146. He's probably got the ability to reach 150 as well. To be fair to him, this is a really likable horse. Some horses around his mark, they're borderline graded animals. Don't always fill you with confidence in the jumping department, but this Jax Jr. just wings everything. I think it was set off from the front. I think it'll be hard to catch, and yeah, point and shoot job should be for this weekend. To be honest, George, yeah.
Point and shoot. Right, yeah, we'll get to the race I was just talking about now then. The 2 mile Novice Hurdle. Double measure, 7 to 2. Club de Rev, 4 to 1. 7 to 2, Storming George, 8 to 1. Mustang de Brule, Locked and Loaded, 8 to 1 as well. 8 to 1 only for Frankie, 12 to 1 bar those. Andy, always interested when it comes to the Novice Hurdles and your speed figures, and often the market doesn't tally with what the clock says. Is this one of those occasions, or has it got a spot on?
Yeah, it's got a spot on. I've actually backed both of these two midweek. They haven't been much bigger prices, so I'm not going to sort of, after time about, I got 8 to 1 this and 7 to 1 that. They were both sort of 9 to 2, 5 to 1. So I thought in and around sort of 9 to 4, 5 to 2, the pair couple was a decent bit of business about Club de Rev and double measure. I can only split them. We can only split them on the times. I suppose if you were to lean one way or the other, you'd probably go Club de Rev because his time figure was slightly better than double measure. I haven't seen them last time out, but the fact that Club de Rev has done it at Kempton and showed a good turn of foot and probably beat a bit deeper field, I'd have to favour him. And Harry Dunn's been really good this season with targeting certain races with horses under the radar, where he's thought, well, we're not a Grade 1 horse, we're not a Grade 2 horse, but we can come away from Cheltenham and just campaign this fella at sort of slightly lower grade races. Not to say this is a bad race when it's stretching imagination, but there's not going to be any Cheltenham horses in this one. They're here running in this race on their own merits. There's no hidden agendas with this race. So Club de Rev, he's obviously been targeted at the race since he won over the Christmas period. He'd just about get the vote if I was picking one over the other, but with double measure. But as I said, I've backed them both accordingly because I think they're better than the rest.
Good stuff. Yeah, just kind of dutching the top two there, Andy. Double Measure and Club de Rev. Joe, anything more exciting for us in the top two of the market?
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's absolutely nothing wrong with what Andy said around those front two. They're definitely going to be there or thereabouts at the finish. Couldn't put anyone off those at all. But there are definitely a couple of sneaky ones down the bottom here, George. You've got a nice horse there called Lexington Wood for Ollie Murphy and Sean Bowen. He's had 3 starts to date, 2 at Punchestown, 1 at Down Royal, and has now switched to Ollie Murphy for obviously a campaign over here. Now, the last time they got a nice Irish recruit, they had to stick to the plan, who ended up going on to win the Persian War. Now, this Lexington Wood, he's still a maiden at the moment, but he's got some really good form behind Vittorio PL, who was the bumper favourite at one point. He was then 12 lengths behind Davy Crockett, and then he gave £3 to Ballyfad at Down Royal and got beat by half a length and nearly got back up to win that day. I mean, if that form rings true to what Ballyfad's gone on to do now, he's going to have a massive chance off 11 stone 5, and he's surely going to be better than that. At 16 to 1, I think you can afford to take a chance there with Sean Bowen on board, because you can imagine they're not trying to handicap this horse for anything in particular. They'll be going from the get-go to try and win this race. So I think Lexington Wood definitely needs a second look. But also, Only for Frankie, he's another that's just got some nice form in the book and probably doesn't want to be underestimated. He had a decent campaign as a bumper horse. He then got beat on his maiden hurdle debut by a horse called Sumo for the Hendersons. But next time out, he gave over a stone to Baby Ken and gave him a 17-length walloping. Then next time, he actually beat Mossy Fen Road at Musselburn. Now, Mossy Fen Road is the supreme horse for Harry Deering this year. That is still the plan as well. And he actually beat him quite cosily. So I think the form and the prices doesn't quite add up on these two, and I might take the pair. So Only for Frankie at 9 to 1, and then Lexington Wood at 16 to 1 is a real dark horse in here too.
Love it, yeah. Only for Frankie 9 to 1, 14 to 1 about Lexington Wood with priced up as it stands. That Lexington Wood really interesting. Yeah, as you say, that back forward Ballyfad in the bumper looks. I can see Andy nodding.
Definitely, yeah. I got see Joe's angle there. Yeah, good pick.
Hopefully,
good stuff. Final race we're going to look at Kempton before we head to Newcastle for the IDA is the 3 mile handicap chase, where Catat Dory is the 5 to 1 favourite ahead of Ho Jolie Smoke at 6 to 1. Cados and Frey 15 to 2 just ahead of the Doyen Chief at 7 to 1, 8 to 1 Deep Cave, 10 to 1 bar those. Joe, take us away for the last race we're going to cover at Kempton.
Yep, sure. Cheers, George. I'm quite top-heavy in the market sort of angled here. Ho Jolie Smoke is seemingly coming for a fair bit of support, but I must be honest, I've got a little bit of a question mark whether he's quick enough for a track like Kempton. All of his running has been coming up Cheltenham. He's been travelling strongly and maybe not finding enough up the hill. Just don't know if he finishes his races strong enough. I do think here we have the right favourite in Katati Dory for Sam Thomas. I think that form behind Heracles Westwood last time out is really strong. I don't see why the trip's going to be a bit of an issue either. And this sort of good to soft ground will just be slightly more his bag. We know how much of a good target trainer Sam Thomas has been this year. And although it's a little bit muggy, I just can't see this fella outside of the first 4. So I'll just take the price, George, and back him each way at 5 to 1 here with plenty of places available.
Yeah, currently 4 places, but we'll see on the day what we get there. But Catat Dory, the right favourite for Joe, and an each way steal by the sounds of things. Andy, how do you see this?
Yes, choppy one. It's not an overly strong view, but I'd probably be prepared to take a punt at the price on Lookaway, staying 3 miles. He looked as though he needed all 2.5 here last time out to get up. It was a race, I don't know if Joe remembers, but there was only 5 runs, but they went a right mother and father at a gallop early on. There was like horses taking each other on, and he had Go West up there, he had Leader in the Park, you had Lookaway, and there was no relenting in the gallop. And it was only Lookaway really who survived the test. I know Old Cowboy fell at the second last and he was still in contention, so it slightly accentuates that winning margin, which in the end was 27 lengths. But Leader in the Park and Go West were absolutely punch drunk, and Go West has gone out to win since at Musselburgh. And I think he's worth a dart at 3 miles. Like I say, he looks an out-and-out stay. They tried him out for two runs ago, and he had no right to keep up with the likes of Mighty Bandit. He ran okay first time over fences behind Dargiani when he needed the run. And he's, like I say, he's fairly lightly raced. And these lightly raced, unexposed chasers with a bit more to come, that at least have been proven around the track are quite dangerous. And I think he's around about 4-figure prices, is he? Look away.
So which one was he?
Look away.
I thought that was an order. Yeah, 10 to 1.
10 to 1, yeah. Not a bad shout. Yep, so I'll go with him.
10 to 1 there for Look Away is Andy's selection there. We'll move over now to the 243 at Newcastle. The IDA Handicap Chase over an extent, 4 miles and a furlong. Where Angler's Crag is the 7-2 favourite ahead of Living on Luco at 9-2. Fortunate Man 13-2. Mr. Vango 7-1. Dom of Mary 15-2. Nokanori 15-2. 12-1 bar those. Andy's the IDA a race you've got a good record in?
Yeah, I've had the IDA win a couple of times. I think Christian Williams has won it a few years back. That was punted off the boards into sort of a ridiculous prize, but he just about got the job done. That horse that kept winning all the time. We won about 4 or 5 off the spin. I can't remember its name now.
Win My Wings.
Which one?
Win My Wings. Is it the filly?
No. The one that I think it ran in the Bet365 towards the end of the year. It might even run in the Grand National. I should have checked it out beforehand anyway. But yeah, I did back the winner of the IDA a couple of years back. I thought Dom and Mary was a decent shout here. He was a bit lucky to win, admittedly, over the C&D. Sorry, not the course and distance, 3 mile 6, wasn't it? When Zerktat put the brakes on at the last, but once Zerktat gave him the opportunity, he didn't need any second invitation. I thought he pounced and then went well clear. Looked to my eyes as though, extreme distances are really right up his street. So the fact that he's won around the track has got to count for plenty. I thought he ran perfectly respectable in the Welsh National. He was up against Hoyta Calera, who's a Gold Cup horse. Finished 6th of 17 that day. So that was a classy race, and the one he takes on this afternoon over the weekend. So yeah, it looks as though he's been saved, especially for the race. The fact that he's come here, he's had a run in December, and he hasn't run since. There's not that many races you probably run a horse who needs nearly 4 miles, admittedly, but yeah. I think Dom and Mary could run quite well here. He looks an absolute dyed-in-the-wool stare as far as I could see.
15-2, Dom of Mary, Andy selection. Joe?
Yeah, I mean, these staying races past sort of 3.5 miles, I do tend to struggle, to be honest, George. They're not really my bag. But I do find it interesting that Val Dancer sort of back down to 129, won the Welsh National off 126. So starting to come back to a mark where, you could probably see a bit of form coming. But I'm probably going to keep my nose dry for this one. I just had a look back, though, with the IDA winners. It was Win My Wings, but the following year, Christian Williams won it again. I assume it was Kitty's Light.
That's the one. Kitty's Light. Yeah. Yeah, that's the one.
Really likeable horse. But, whatever's going to win this, George, it's going to be tough guts to get the job done anyway. I'll just watch this and enjoy this one, I think.
Top stuff. Yeah, final race. We're going to go through a quick trip to Fairy House in the 315, which is the Bobby Joe Chase. Grange Clear West is the 3-1 favourite ahead of Spanish Harlem at 9-2. 3-card Bragg also 9-2. Captain Cody 6-1. 8-1 Answer to Cave. 10-1 Stellar Story. Some old favourites here, Joe. How do you see this?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one, George, actually. Now that we've got the Grand National weights, they can let a few of these go if they want to. Obviously, the jockey bookings are always going to be quite interesting here. But I think it's really interesting that Lecky Watson is due to run here. I think the plan is to go as well. I know he has been mapped out as a horse that's going to be a Grand National horse this season, and I agree. I've actually tipped him myself at 33-1. He's actually by a horse called Valoran. I mentioned Val Dancer a minute ago, obviously won the Welsh National, same side for Lecky Watson. So even though this horse won the Brown Advisory, I think we're going to start to see the best of him when he goes past that trip. Goes up to 3 mile 2 here. Of course, we're going to want to see him go a little bit further once more, but he is not going to be out of this at all. This is a weaker renewal than I was expecting. And I wouldn't say even half of these are coming here to win the race. Lecky Watson has no reason not to give this a real good go, and he's surely going to go well. The other would be Captain Cody. Fell in the Tiestes quite early last time out. He was Paul Townend's rider. He was heavily backed into 7-2. I don't see why they won't be trying here, and he's a real forward-going good jumper. He's won at the course too, which is probably going to be a little bit of a bonus here. And perhaps I'd take the two, Lecky Watson and Captain Cody.
Yeah, Lecky Watson and Captain Cody, they're the two there for Joe. Lecky Watson, 12-1. Captain Cody, as I mentioned a bit earlier, 6-1. Andy?
Yeah, it's been a race that's had a significant bearing on the Grand National, hasn't it, in recent times. Iron Maximus won it 2 years ago. Nick Rocket won it last year. Any second now used to use this as a prep race before, running really well in the Aintree marathon. So, yeah, I think we need to take heed of whatever runs well here, even if they don't win. I found it a real puzzle. I mean, Grange West, he's run 2 runs ago in the Savills. You'd have a great chance, but is he a real out-and-out stayer over on heavy ground? Spanish Island was really unlucky on seeing the rider when he had the Thyestes in his grasp last time out. I think he's a big player. Ricard Bragg probably want the ground a little bit drier than he's going to get over the weekend. Captain Cody's on a bit of a recovery mission. Stella Story ran all the way around the inside at Leopardstown last time out. I think Jerry Colom's a big price. He comes out of the Galmoy hurdle, which has already thrown up Staffordshire not as a winner. That time figure was very good, at home by Lily race. I could see him going well. But the one I'd probably go with is Answer the Cave. He's always been a horse that I like. He won the Troy Town early in the season. He's an out-and-out stayer. He ran well from a long way. He went all the way around the inside at Gowran in the Thyestes, which it wasn't the place to be. He needed to be out on the wing. I thought he ran probably about as well as can be expected, given where he was on the track. Answer the Cave for me at a price, and an honourable mention for Jerry Colomb also at a price.
Yeah, Jerry Colomb, 14-1. Answer to Cave, 8-1. As I say, plenty here with a rich history of the Cheltenham Festival, but likely won't be there at least. We might see a couple of them pop up at Aintree. Lecky Watson, one of those, maybe Jordan's as well, who looks an interesting runner for the O'Brien team at Aintree. There we have it. Thank you very much to Andy and to Joe for sharing their tips, thoughts, and insight ahead of this weekend's racing. As I say, because of course there is, horses are being put away for the festival now. There are fewer pointers, but we still managed to weave in a champion hurdle preview into there as well. And make sure you do check out pricedup.bet for all of your Cheltenham betting. Pricing every single race. There are competitive pricing, stand out in a lot of markets too. And there are price boosts across sports every single day. So do check out Priced Up and do sign up for an account if you haven't got one already. I'd love to check out you covered for all your fixed odds betting needs and price comparison there too, as well as Joe's and Andy's tips. So make sure you get over to oddschecker as well. We'll see you again next week. But in the meantime, enjoy the racing and please ensure that you gamble responsibly.